welcome to the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament 2022. We're into week 3, day number 2. My name is Imperium, joined by the wonderful, the handsome, the now at home, Zute. How are you doing today, man?
I'm feeling great. Good to be back home. The weather is definitely nicer here compared to where I was. So I'm not as cold, and I probably won't have to wear a jacket the whole time now. I can wear some t-shirts.
You're still, of course, wearing the bucket hat, but we all know that won't change, of course. And there's always an element of comfort of kind of commentating from your own home. I can say that I'm not at home at the moment, despite of a dodgy camera, but either way, and we're here, and we're ready to rock and roll in today's 4 games. Moving on to the overall standings, Zute, it's looking pretty good for France.
Yeah, just like how, you know, the bucket hat's never going to change. It doesn't look like France is going to lose that #1 spot either. They're there to stay. A couple of days ago, we questioned, like, maybe, you know, one of these teams like Germany, Romania, or Italy could have a huge day and upset that first place. But we've seen over the past couple of days, like, France is not stopping anytime soon. If anything, they have widened the point gap in the last few days. So it's not looking good for any of the other teams to try and take first place. But the battle for second is very hot between the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place team. And potentially, actually, no, scratch that. I was going to count in Nordic just maybe, but I think Nordic's a little bit too far behind.
No, I'm gonna politely disagree with you, Zute.
Okay.
I say Nordic as a region, hands down, have an opportunity. Italy at times haven't looked the most consistent, the most confident. They had a bit of a shaky day yesterday. It's very easy. One strong day for the Nordic regions, and they will be up there with Italy. I'm not saying they have enough to overtake Romania, but my point is, Italy is very much in the sightlines of Nordic countries. So I'm going to have to disagree with you. But indeed, France have a 103-point lead. Moving on towards the second half of the overall standings. It's very close between Spain, United Kingdom, and Czech Republic. After yesterday's game, Zute, UK did jump ahead of Spain.
Yeah, and another team that jumped up was Greece. Greece has been sitting in the last place spot for quite a while, but we saw what one team, the side of Greek army, could really do for their community when they really start showing up. They start to play more aggressive, right? When they just take more fights and trust in their skills. We saw them put Greece on the map, and they're no longer in the last place spot, but that does put down Portugal down to the 10th place. So curious to see which team or which community out there is going to fight for, you know, at least not be in the last place spot.
Yeah, so we have a new day and a new set of groups coming on board for today's games. It's going to be Group B, Group C, Group D, Group E. So Group A are not participating. Not going to lie, off the top of my head, I forget what teams are in Group A. I'm hoping, Zute, you have the knowledge, you have the information to inform us all.
Yeah, so for Group A, we have first let's represent them by the community, right? Spain, Italy, Nordic, and Greece. So from Spain's side, Respect will not be playing. From Italy's side, La Familia will not be playing today. Out of the Nordic countries, YMCA is not playing today, and out of Greece, Lemniscate is not playing today.
So once again, another day where we have both the French community teams, both the German community teams, and now, after a day's break, we have Eastern Stars, along with 4 Romanian men, representing the Romanian community. And we gotta say, yesterday, with the absence of Eastern Stars, 4 Romanian men, they stepped up to the plate big time. 1 chicken dinner, nearly a second, a hell of a lot of points.
4 Romanian men, I think that was one of the best days they might have had, especially given the fact, like you said, their team, their brethren team of Eastern Stars were not playing. Now that Eastern Stars is playing, we've always seen Eastern Stars do a little bit better than 4 Romanian men. But we've seen Eastern Stars starting to drop off ever so gradually since the beginning of the tournament. And now with, you know, them playing together again, I want to see 4 Romanian men take it, take it home, take it big, and show Eastern Stars how it's done.
Yeah, lead by example, right? We know that the Romanian community has been overall over the past year and a half massively improved community, and Eastern Stars have been the kind of kings of that region, of that country. They've really massively represented them on the global stage. But like we see in Indonesia, for example, where BTR has kind of, I wouldn't say crumbled, but they've kind of lost that crown to
Yeah.
the likes of oh my god, I forget who else, but a number of Indonesian teams. My point is that could be very much the same for Eastern Stars come the end of 2022.
That could very well happen. Usually, I would say I would call them like little. I wouldn't even call them dynasties in esports. There's some
Oh
teams.
damn!
There's some teams that I think to be called a dynasty, you have to hold it
Wait, you're
down.
talking about
For,
BTR
yeah,
or
yeah,
okay, yeah, fair enough.
yeah. Just like yeah, I was gonna use the word dynasty, but then I realized a year's worth of dominance in a region is not a dynasty, right? I think, in my opinion, you establish a dynasty once you hold it down for 3 years. So, alluding back to BTR and combining that with Eastern Stars, yeah, Eastern Stars may have been the top team or so for about a year, but typically teams come and go year round as far as the top team in esports. Very rarely will you get a top team out of, a region or even globally, of
Yeah.
course, for more than a year. It like they change very quickly. So I would not be too surprised if the Eastern Stars, get passed up by another team out of the Romanian side.
Well, legends never die, in the words of League of Legends, and Eastern Stars are certainly full of legends, led by the warlord Kapahala. They have dropped in towards that Starbar Kameshki split drop based on this playing path, which is certainly not a bad thing. Seems like Real Tiger 9 going to be heading for a different drop spot. As far as I know, Milta could be theirs because there is no YMCA, as far as I know, in today's games. Or either way, we'll have to wait and see as 7-Up getting into a little bit of an early engagement or throwing a couple of nades. And yeah, it's so far so good. That phase 1, not to be sniffed at.
Hopefully we'll catch you back on the highlights. Maybe Killer can let me know. But did that 7-Up player just take down the enemy player with a pistol and then finish it off with a grenade, or did he just grenade him twice off the beginning of the match? Because he had no main weapons. This 7-Up player that we're looking at on the screen right now, when he got that confirmation, he did not have any weapons besides a revolver. Yeah.
Talking about. Yes, confirmation was with a nade.
Okay.
Confirmation was with a nade. But just one thing real quick, Zute, and I know that it isn't going to be the same in the PMECT based on what we've seen, but I was commentating the America's Elite League last night with Maxman, and that was absolutely crazy with just how aggressive the teams were. And one of the Loops players got a knock in the passenger seat of a buggy with a pistol.
Okay. Well, they were just built different. They're just built different. Yeah. Man. All right. Well, we've seen some crazy stuff here too, albeit it's a little bit more on the shenanigans side of crazy. I can't help but to think of that military circle game we had a couple of days ago. But like there's some high gun skill here too. Like we've seen some crazy shots.
I just think we've seen a really healthy amount of strategic plays coming out from these teams in the PMECT. I think we've seen some overall high level rotations and positioning, especially in the mid and late stage of the game. Plus the evolution. We've highlighted teams like Greek Army. They've adapted, they've grown, and we're seeing a much higher level of control from the Greek side in these last couple of games.
I think the coolest thing about watching tournaments that are, over the course of multiple days and tournaments that have more amateur teams in them, I think the coolest asset is definitely the evolution, right? You could quite literally see them start adjusting things and trying
Mm.
to play better and learn because they're rather newer. There's a lot of room for growth. Whereas when you're watching like the top dog teams, trying to improve those last few percentages is a very difficult task, right? Especially when you're butting heads with other teams that are always all like every team in the lobby, don't let you make any mistakes. So you get punished really quickly for it. Whereas here, you can make some mistakes here and there. You can still get away with some stuff, but overall, you're still, going through a huge learning process, and we could actively see teams start to, adjust things,
Mm.
play different styles, and it's great to see.
5.5 minutes in, we saw Golden Esports loot up the Zarky area, and very rare spot to have a full squad go to. I know that Golden Esports have been a little bit of a passive team, not in a bad way. They found success with it, so I'm not really surprised that they are dropping in this Zarky area. I just do wonder a little bit in terms of possibly their loot and the fact that Big on that Severny shooting range north of the riverside. We saw what they were able to do in previous games against Glore, so I'd like to not see the same fate suffer at the hands of Golden Esports.
I'd agree. We see Big, they have to rotate down from the north to south, and quite easily Glore or Golden might run into their pathing. And we all know what happens when Big gets into a fight. I mean, Big even took down the best team in the entire lobby yesterday in a 4v4 situation without losing a single player.
So this kind of phase one, we have the Hills of Pachinki a little bit more heavily prioritized. Mega Power dropped in Pachinki. I would argue, is that a little bit too late to disengage, or is it just one of those things where a good few teams are rotating maybe earlier than both them and ourselves are expecting?
Mega Power typically go to Novo, correct? So their style of play is to loot up a little bit longer. They are simply in Pachinki because due to the plane path and because it's open. So they're still transitioning that same style of looting a little bit longer before rotating. And we've mentioned it before, first circle rotations have become less and less meta. It's not as important to get a prime location in the first circle anymore.
Fair. Before Romanian men, you can see in the kill feed has been able to get a juicy couple of elimination points onto members of Mega Power. They're going to pay the price as we look on our screens at Chasmac going a little bit heavy towards the members of 7-Up. Ace, I argue, probably didn't want to really go there, but it seems like they're committing for a fight. Shadowwen wraps around the side of the building on towards the buggy to get up and towards the third floor. It's a good spot to hold on to. It gives a strong elevation point. He's on his own, so if he does suffer at the hands of a knock, it's just one player down. As we saw Chasmac pull out some great suppressing fire shots on teams in the past. They trade the knocks between Azar and So, and the confirmation comes through. Torch opens a door, gonna peek through the window, knows that Shadowwen is there, but with one player down, it's up to the 3 remaining players to turn it around.
This fight is back and forth, but you can see the aggressive team has advantage, and that's why they are aggressive. They have the setup to pressure 7-Up in. 7-Up needs to retaliate in a more aggressive manner with the knock from A. Oh, but that works!
No!
Pocus grenading himself. Trazen gets the trade, though. That is a huge recovery by the Chasmok team. Chasmok with 4 up. They're going to get that revive onto their 4th player, Pocus, who grenaded themselves. But you can see here, 7-Up, when you're playing defensive, it is so hard to win a fight unless you're relying on the mistakes of the aggressing team. But when the aggressing team knows what they're doing, they pick you apart one by one. Starkey, last one up.
That's a 9,000 IQ play. I'm going to call it by Pocus. That was on purpose. He meant to do that, right? He absolutely meant to do that. He's like, guys, in his French accent, yes, oui, I will knock myself out with a nade. He will think I'm on my own. He will get counter knock. Yes, oui, happy days. Merci, magnifique play coming out from Chasmac. I do think overall that was it was a bit of a premature push by that 7-Up player. He wasn't in. The rest of his team wasn't there to support him. Basically, the risk was there, and he kind of paid the price.
Yeah, I would have loved to see 7-Up adjust their defense a little bit to be a little more proactive. They had the 2 players lined up in the back, kind of near where Starkey is, right? Yeah. The second they got pushed, just counterplay. You know, wrap around, find a different angle, put some pressure back onto the aggressing team, so the aggressing team can't just fight the way they want to fight against you. You saw the entirety of the fight. The Chasmok initiated every angle, initiated every start of the fight, their individual 1v1s, the cover fire, everything. So it's really easy for Chasmok to have things in their control. And the only way, like I said, 7-Up would have came out on top is if Chasmok just screwed up heavily. Like if they just did not, you know, check their angles, if they did not, you know, have teamwork, then 7-Up might have been able to win. But at this level, at this stage in the game, with teams playing so on point recently, you got to do some more proactive plays.
And I'm really genuinely so happy to see Chasmok continue their aggression, to continue their calculated moves in these engagements, and they're really kind of quickly becoming one of the most dangerous teams in engagements, especially early on in the game. And they do disengage because phase 2 blue zone is starting to close in, and they're gonna have to react to this circle in a bit more of a confident manner. I don't think it's really bad that they're letting the last player of 7-Up go, because they could take too long to close out that fight.
Well, they let one player go, but they're not letting another team go. Uncanny getting into a fight with Chasmok, or should I say Chasmok getting into a fight with Uncanny. They pick one up. They're about to get a second. Uncanny. This is a really wide split of players with this formation. It looks like it was a straight up skirmish, and Uncanny are definitely not getting the better end of it.
I'm really curious, and I wish I had a little bit of a rewind function to see if Uncanny were here first, because we know that Chasmok literally just rotated there.
Yeah.
And they're ready for the fight, so I wonder what exactly went wrong with Uncanny. Doctor's last player off. He's gonna get a bit of a surprise attack onto Pocus, cannot confirm the kill. Has to disengage away from the building in towards the window of smoke. Pre-naded to try and give him an element of cover. Gonna go for the low ball, surprise attack play coming through Shadowhead. Nearly gonna be knocked, but not quite enough. Chasmok pick up more eliminations. Happy days.
I will give the credit to the Uncanny player that got that knock and thirst. I like what he did there. The second he saw the rest of the team, yeah, he confirmed. It was confirmed. Yeah, so the second he saw the 3 players run into the house, and then he saw one player still outside holding the grenade, he knew he had an opportunity to not just only knock the player, but also confirm a point for his team. Whereas, you know, some other players might just run out, get that knock, and then quickly run back in. So I will give him credit for that decision making there. But of course, Chasmok looking really strong. With even 3 players left, it's looking like they could still do some damage left in the lobby.
Travis. It's a bit of a tricky area to hold down. Shack by the side of the road, but I do like the proactive shots around it. Glor still in the blue of this phase 3. We haven't really seen where the circle is shifted, and I am questioning why they're there. Maybe there is fear of being caught up by big, so they're slowing down on the rotation, but they're going to have 0 information coming into the edge of this circle.
I do believe the circle did pop up very briefly. It was all the way down to this, like a hard shift down to the southwest, if I could recall correctly. Bravis here getting into a fight with the Game Lords, one of the strongest teams in the entirety of the lobby, and it's looking like Game Lords having some issues right now as they've already lost one player. Robs is about to go down in a blaze of fire. It's the bullets from the off angle from the flank actually that gets him, and this just looks like a very messy engagement. This definitely was some sort of rotation that went wrong haphazardly. This is not the Game Lord we expect to see. We usually see like more structure and form as far as where the players are set up. But they're down to 2. They could still make something happen against the Bravis team.
Well, the circle has shifted down southwest towards the ferry pier, and the ferry pier could still be turned around by Game Lord Bravis. I said they were in a tiny bit of a tricky position in the shack by the side of the road, but the spread was successful for them as they cleaned up a couple of players from Game Lord. Big on our screens, only starting this team as a starting this game as a 3-person team is going to hurt them a little bit. They're trying to deal with the side of, I don't know, that's not La Familia. As far as I know, no, because they're not in this game. The Red Moon either way. The Blue Zone is closing in. They have to hit towards one of those teams.
You know, I congratulated Mazzaro the other day on their first chicken, and by his reply, I could tell like that is something that the team really tried to work towards and try to attain. They realized that was a weak point. They know their early game fights were good, so maybe today Mazzaro could get another congratulatory message. Hopefully they could get another chicken. But the next circle is shifting on out. We had the hard shift down to the southwest, like I said, and that's another hard shift down to the southwest. Again, this is why you see so many teams stuck on that northern area. It's like a bag of Skittles right there due to all the hard shifts. And this other hard shift coming up in the same direction is not going to help any of these guys. You can see Bazzi there going down to the play zone.
LMV have a prime opportunity to pick up a hell of a lot of eliminations and even push teams that do want to breach on their eastern position inside the circle in towards kind of the ferry pier buildings and have a fight amongst themselves. LMV, they got punished in earlier games when they were maybe late to rotate to that kind of position. Seems like an earlier execution is going to work out in their favor. Real Tiger 9, 1 elimination, down to 3 players. They have a hell of a long way to go to breach in.
So many teams still nowhere near the circle, and you saw the mad rush from the teams that did manage to rotate. They were full sending it. They realized 2 circle hard shifts towards the same direction in a row is a huge opportunity to get in deeper into the middle of the zone, especially when you're down numbers and you can't work in from the outsides. Last player of Mega Power Fella doing the best he can to stall against the 4 Romanian men. He's able to get that first aid off, and he threw his util already. He's got 1 more grenade, but that one might be coming out a little bit too late as the 4 Romanian men push in, and the drop shot goes through. 4 Romanian men cleaned that one up quite nicely.
I know Mega Power were down to a lower amount of players per se, but 4 Romanian men did crash in onto those ferry pier buildings, and the fact that they took control of that area with that engagement so quickly says a lot on how much they're improving as the 100 Will makes that PL play and rocks around with the vehicle, gets a run over in his favor while his teammates are doing what they can to support them. Switching on over to Game Lord. They're down to 2, Victor and Narvello. We saw a sloppy set of moves coming out from them earlier on where they had 2 players go down at the hands of Bravas, but they're still in the game. The chance is there. Don't count them out.
Starkey, last one up for 7-Up. We saw how they lost the fight way earlier with Chasmog, losing players 1 by 1, but Starkey has managed to survive on his own and managed to get quite deep into this hard shift zone. Maybe he could lay low in that shack and get the next circle. We'll know very soon where it goes. D100 down to 1 player. I like how they, went for those elims when they're not too sure on where to go in the zone, especially when they're so late on that rotation. So it does kind of work out for them. Greek Army.
Greek Army. Potentially going to get their partied a little bit. I think that's an LMV on the hillside to the north. Trying to take a couple of pop shots, but Style Mode doesn't even take time to get a first aid off. Drop shots with the knock. Can he get revived? The support from his team is so vital in this area at this time of the game. And it's Greek Army doing what they do best, right? Playing in on the edge, keeping up as a full squad, sticking together, but spread out enough to be aggressive.
And I think it's a whole different Greek Army. Like, usually we don't see them. Like, we've said this story so many times, but
yeah.
I just want to highlight the key fact. That player did not go for a first aid in that situation. He kept out his awareness. He kept up his aggression. He was prepared for a fight rather than just going for the first fight. He's 1 HP and he took down a full HP player because he knew he needed to be ready to fight there. So Greek Army looking like a completely different team with a completely different mentality for each individual player.
Game Lord. Nothing Victor could really do in that moment. The circle shifting down the southwest to the coastal line, to the beach side, the warpath, the warland where there's a couple of divots. Golden Esports have control, but can they pull out a big chicken dinner for the Portuguese community? While Greek Army, they're going to have to deal with 4 Romanian men. The biggest challenge lays in front of them. Couple of shots towards Stybone does force him to lay low, pull off a first aid. That will allow 4 Romanian men to maybe reposition, get a bit of a stranglehold. And it's not the stranglehold, it's a nade by Dexter to connect on the Stybone. That's the knock coming through.
That's going to slow down Greek Army tremendously. I don't think they're going to be able to win that fight there with the amount of time they have left. Blue Zone is closing, and it's a hard gatekeep by the 4 Romanian men. On the northern side of things, Red Moon trying to get into the circle themselves, and they're having issues against LMV. LMV right now also have a player knocked. Ooh, Goldie eating that grenade down to 1 HP. He's going to readjust. Yep, that's a very smart decision. When a grenade lands that close to you, you better readjust your position. And back onto the Greek Army fight.
Yeah. I don't know how he didn't get knocked from that grenade. He lived to tell the tale, and indeed that reposition was accurate. I don't know what's happening with Greek Army in this moment. It seems like a lack of synergy is stopping them from really making a big play. I know it's easier said than done in this position, but I would like to see a bit stronger of a wraparound and maybe get some kind of angles onto the players of 4 Romanian men. Back over onto towards the fight between Red Moon and LMV Germany up against Italy. Both teams suffering massive knocks. LMV down to 2. I believe Red Moon also down to 2, but Versace driving in with the vehicle. He could pay the price. His goalie gets out of the vehicle, takes a couple of shots, gets back in while his teammates are getting the revive. That's good communication. That's good play from Goldie.
I love how both teams are inching into the circle, like meter by meter, stopping and fighting, resetting, inching in a little bit closer. Because you can't just go ahead of the other team, because then the other team will be behind you and press down on you on the high ground advantage. So it's beautiful to see teams realizing some of these, fundamentals. We've seen before it happen. A team will rotate in front of the other and then get taken out because they don't take care of the team right next to them. Both of these teams realizing that they're just fighting their way slowly into each other through the blue zone. And it's an even trade. It's literally 1 knock for each and then 1 up for each.
But Versace is on his own, and it has turned into a 1v2. Circle shifting down south. They not only have to cross the road, but they have to cross paths with the likes of Chasmak and Trazen. Second, the head peaks. Second, the pixel out of place. The shots come out. Golden Esports, they weren't able to hold on as a full squad, but still 2 players up, 1 elimination point. I'm looking at 4 Romanian men to grab this chicken dinner.
Oh, yeah. That's a safe bet for sure for 4 Romanian men. Even if they don't get the circle, the rest of the map is pretty easy for them to work through, and they got the players. The only problem, though, is I don't know if they kept their vehicles. You see that beach side has some cover, but it's quite a distance to cover. Lewis.
Damn, son.
That's a 3-pointer right there, but he picked up 2 kills. What a beautiful grenade. And okay, 4 Romanian men do have vehicles. You see them readjusting, getting more map control right there, splitting up into a 2-2 angle. And as for everybody else, it's pretty much over. I mean, we have a duo and 2 solos. There is not much that these players can do against the side of 4 Romanian men.
The nade was Kobe Bryant worthy from Lewis of Golden Esports. And I would argue a massively important nade because it allows him to restructure and reposition in a little bit more of a confident manner without getting, or with lesser risk of getting third party, should I say. Trazen is going to take the opportunity to push forward into the shack in which the 2 LMV players held down. Does Louis have another one that he can cook up? Does he need to throw out another one? Well, Trazen, he's going to take the chance with a molly, possibly. He doesn't want to exit the shack because he knows shots are being fired out by the players from 4 Romanian men. This is clever play from Trazen, but a molly in his direction will force him a little bit out towards his shack. Cooking up another nade, waiting. Phase 6 is coming through, and we're 3 teams left.
You see him trying to get the angle through the window, but he also needs to toss it higher at the same time to get it to reach to the golden side, and he's realizing it's just not possible now from inside the shack. And he knows he can't peek out of the shack either. 4 Romanian men with so many different angles. Golden, though, still putting up some nice shots right there. That's going to be an easy reset. Golden can't do much off of that either because there's three other
Oh,
players set up
lovely.
for the cover, and the grenade by Sarah, who's been inching closer, connects onto Marlowski.
The confirmation comes through. They don't waste any time at all. And down goes Louis. Dexter pushes forward to finish that one off. We're left with 1v4. Trazen gets a little bit of an angle onto Dexter. Can cook up one of the last grenades that he has on board, but a molly is going to burn him to the ground, and it's 4 Romanian men. Teo Besk with the chicken dinner.
4 Romanian men. We saw them almost get 2 chickens yesterday. They were looking so strong yesterday. And, well, they're looking strong today, carrying that momentum and coming into the very first game with a massive amount of eliminations and a very dominant control of the circle. Yeah, they got the circles towards the very, very end, but we saw them breach in. They made that decisive decision to breach into the ferry pier, and they took care of the teams there, and they defended against the Greek army, and that's ultimately what got them the win.
Yeah, can't argue with it. Again, it was very much about the fact that they didn't take for granted the area in which they moved into initially. How quick they were in the ferry pier and how quick they were to get that engagement onto Mega Power. So many other teams, Ute, and we've seen it before. You've seen it, I've seen it, where teams will push into a compound when a circle shifts massively and they'll wait there and they're like, fine, we don't need to move. And then they'll get third partied 5 minutes later, right? Not 4 Romanian men. They took the bull by the horn and they were rewarded with a lovely steak. Bull steak? Is that right? Is that okay? Either way, it's a chicken dinner.
Yeah, a chicken dinner, massive amount of points. So, one thing that I really like though is Chasmok, right? They took early game engagements, not an easy one either, that compound breach, and they still managed to make it to the late game.
Crazy.
We see a lot of teams, you know, that are starting to learn how to take early game fights and doing pretty well with it, but towards the end stages of the game, they don't necessarily always make it to the late game, and placement points are still points. Sure, you could get, you know, 5 elim points, but if you could get to, like, you know, a top 3 position through placement points alone, that's still more points than 5 elim points. And Chasmok being able to do both is a really good sign out of them too.
I feel sorry for LMV because I think the rug got pulled out from underneath them. They had 7 eliminations before they went down, so we do see that they were trying to control that area, but when the circle shifted away from them, we saw that fight with Red Moon. They were inching in, just didn't work out in the end. What is going to work out, he's just going to a bit of a break. Highlights is on your eyes in the next couple of seconds. George will show you the rankings from that first game and head into game 2. Don't go away. What time is it? It's clobbering time. No, it's not clobbering time just yet. Time that we're back from the break in the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. One game down, Zute, and it was won by, once again, Romanian side of 4 Romanian men.
We questioned with 4 Romanian men and Eastern Stars playing together once again. Is Eastern Stars going to be the better Romanian team? As you know, we usually see that being the case, but this time around, it's looking like the 4 Romanian men are here to take the Romanian crown as a team that will show up and show out. 28 total points, I believe, for the 4 Romanian men. Yeah, right there on your screen. 13 eliminations. That's actually quite a lot of eliminations for a chicken dinner.
Especially considering the position that they genuinely were in and how they rotated to. Just can't stress that enough. But a little bit like 4 Romanian men, Chazmak, you could say, in Formula 1 or motorsports, you maybe have the number 1 driver and a number 2 driver, right? It's a little bit like this, right? You have the kind of number 1 team and the number 2 team of the communities, with all due respect. And you could argue that coming into this 4 Romanian men, we're kind of the number 2 team of Romania, and Chazmak the number 2 team of France. Yeah. But in this game, hey, they're proving they're number 1, and Chazmak with 9 eliminations, 12 placement points, 21 in total. Once again, continue to be impressed.
It's quite literally like, they are motivated or, playing up to their counterparts, right? Game Lord has taken the spotlight for the entirety of the show. And when Eastern Stars came in, we were saying things like, oh, Eastern Stars is definitely the better of the 2. Like, they just simply were. But that was like maybe 2 weeks ago. Yep. As the weeks grow, lead on, these teams, like, yes, they're not technically playing together as a team, and they technically are playing against each other per match, but that rivalry is spurring them to do better for themselves and for their community. So it all works out, and that's a beautiful little dynamic we have that we've seen develop throughout the course of this community style format.
And outside of kind of France, with all due respect, with how much of a lead they have in the standings, it continues to kind of pace quite nicely between Germany and Romania. It wasn't better of game 1 for the Romanian community, with 4 Romanian men getting 28 in the chicken dinner. Eastern Stars, it was still 6 points that they secured with 5 eliminations, giving a total of 34. In comparison to Germany's 14 plus 3, that's 17. So that's basically double the points. They still have kind of the next 3 games to really close that gap. But for the start of the day, certainly Romania, they'll take it.
I think it's gonna be neck and neck all the way through. Like, we'll see big point grabs from one team, and they'll create some spacing, but it always seems to just follow up with another community that's has a pop-off game as well, and then that point gap is closed. If it's not the day of, it's going to be in the next day, where one of the regions steps up and tries to catch up and fight for that second place overall. Of course, France, like we mentioned, they're looking so consistent day in, day out. They're not loosening their gap by any means, and if anything, it seems like they're just going to continually increase that point gap.
It is, of course, hurting Italy that there's only a solo representative in the former Red Moon, La Familia, off for today's games. Still 9 points, but not realistically what they need. It will help keep the Nordic region at bay for sure, at least for the time being. But in terms of, really continuing to stay within the reigns of Romania and Germany, unfortunately, Red Moon, I know it's tough, but you're going to need to do more in these next 3 games.
Red Moon, in a way, is just keeping themselves afloat right now, but they're not really swimming anywhere. You want to swim towards a location, not just stay afloat. But 9 points is honestly not too bad. We're just being a little bit critical, though, because they're the sole representative. And when you're vying for that second place position, second, third, and fourth place teams, 9 points is only going to keep you at bay, right? It's not enough to keep you, continuously competing against those other two communities that I mentioned, because those two other communities, I mean, for Romanian men, they just had a pop-off game. LMV, they also did better than the Italian side. So 9 points is good, but it's not enough to catch up.
Exactly. In the bottom half of the standings, when we're looking overall per se, Portugal were overtaken by Greece after yesterday's games, justifiably so. But Golden Esports, they want that to change. They want the status quo back in the favor of the Portuguese community. First game of the day, 13 points. It may not have been pretty, may not have been flashy. At the end of the day, it doesn't need to be, man. It really doesn't once you get the points.
I mean, that Kobe, though, was pretty flashy. Into the Shack, that 1 for 2 by Golden. That was a pretty good one. And I feel like they navigated the circle quite well. They kind of full sent that rotation towards the beach side when they did see that second hard shift to the southwest. So it was done pretty well. But consistency is the question. Do want to give credit to Golden for that game. That was definitely a better game from them than what we usually see. But can they do the same thing throughout the next 3 matches that we have today in PRM? That's what's really going to matter. And that's where all the points are going to start stacking up.
You might say that's the golden question. What did there? But we're moving on to Miramar for game 2 of the day. The map that can be so tricky to deal with. We've kind of talked about it time and time again. We've to an extent laid out the foundations of what can be a successful Miramar game, what can be an unsuccessful Miramar game. Let's talk circle finishes, because we had Los Leones one. Where do you want to see the circle ending?
So we've had Los Leones. We've also had a very southern circle, almost, going over to that little small island on the south side towards Los Higos.
Yeah.
So I think the only one that we haven't really seen yet, that's, I'm not asking for a lot. I want to see an Eastern Island finish, but I feel like that's asking for a little bit too much. A circle that we haven't seen that happens from time to time would be a Northern Circle finish, like the mountaintops east of La Cobriera. That's not a circle that happens, often by any means.
No,
but we've seen it happen. It does happen. So maybe, this one might give it to us.
I believe we had a circle like that end in the PMPL EU West fall split, if I'm not mistaken, and it did catch a few teams out. Not in a bad way to the teams, but it was just one of those things that is uncommon. Therefore, there's a level of uncertainty, right? As you pointed out. The playing path inside this game too, it's quite heavily to the east, so hopefully, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, phase 1 will be heading towards there, but Eastern Stars once again have a very easy drop in front of them.
I do notice how the Eastern Stars do really prefer the east side of the map when they drop. Now, I don't know if their name came before or after that strategy was developed. It was after. Okay. So is it a reference to the fact that they usually come in from the east?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. But speaking about east, instead, we're going to get a very western circle. So this is going to make things really interesting.
Damn. Of course, if you don't know by now, I'm left wondering why you don't know by now, but the guitar shape that is on the very western side of the map is out of bounds. It's inaccessible, so therefore it's only about 10-15% of the circle is out of bounds, but considering the playing path quite predominantly on the east from south to north, and that phase 1 on the west, what does that simple math tell you, Zute?
That the eastern side of the map is going to get very congested.
There you go. So teams need to be aware of that, right? They need to take their time, don't let themselves get caught out, and rotate in a clean way.
So you mentioned that western side of the map is not playable, but I do remember seeing a mountain goat up there. I think it was PMGC East. I don't remember if it's an official match or maybe a scrim.
BTR.
Yeah, I do remember a player up there. I do remember Paraboy made it to the late game on his own as a solo player. Yeah, you can actually climb up those giant rocks. You can't get to the top of it, but you can actually get quite high up. I believe like almost close to 100 meters scaling. Like you can scale up those rocks. I don't know how you do it, but it is doable.
Fun fact, it's actually the area of the map which I would say gave Unicorns of Love their PMGC spot from PMPL points. They got a massive, I think, 32-point game from controlling that area of the map on the west side. So it is scalable indeed. It is controllable. What isn't controllable is Real Tiger 9 Nazgod getting a nade right in front of his face inside San Martin. Game Lord. They caught him out. They're going to get an elimination point.
Game Lord with a nice start to their match. It looks like they're playing with their food a little bit right there, but they will end up finishing that player off, pick up some of that loot. I'm actually quite impressed that we've only had one casualty. With the plane path being so far east and so many teams dropping towards that western side to go to their loot locations, that there hasn't been more altercations off the beginning of the match.
Just to give you an idea of the differences, remember I was talking about the America's Elite League and I kind of alluded to a high level of aggression. 11 minutes into one of the games, I think it was game 2, we were down to 10 teams.
Oh, 11? Wow, okay.
Yeah. I actually, like, shit you not, I think it was like 34 players, 33 players, and 10 teams at the 11-minute mark. It was crazy. I think we had like 4 to 5 hot drops in the first 3 to 4 minutes. It was absolutely wild. So this kind of quiet, generally easy to play start it's not that it's sleepy, but it's also a little bit of a breath of fresh air. It allows me to actually gather my thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the start of any tournament, right, you want to claim your drop spot, right? So if it was the first day, second day, until one team, kind of becomes more dominant. But I'd also like to add the Americas region in general, I would want to say it's prideful, but definitely a lot of ego mixed into that. So like the challenges for drop locations are gonna be quite a thing when you're watching the Americas side of things play.
Like, it just seems like they don't give a frick in terms of they'll go for it, right? Nothing to lose. Throw it all out of the hat. I would say it's not even just prideful as well on the side. No, this is the European region that we're commentating, but to give a bit of a comparison, I think there's a lot of ingrained passion within the Americas region, which stands out and shows up in terms of their gameplay, and there's a lot of emotion behind how they play, whereas I feel like, and a lot of influence coming from the likes of the Turkish region and the CIS region, it's spilled over to Western Europe, where they're a lot more methodical, they're a lot less emotional, and they're very much about, think first, act later, if that makes sense. And that can be very, very rewarding, but sometimes, of course, it can go against them.
Yeah. I would have to agree with the regional approaches, the difference between Americas and like elsewhere. But we do see some more players getting into some solo altercations. So that playing path in this circle is having a domino effect where certain players are just kind of getting caught out on their own. Fella, last one, or not the last one, the first one down for Mega Power, but the last one there holding that gas station location will get taken out by a grenade, and 7up getting caught out by the 100.
And this is what one of the things I talked about in terms of drop spots and the eastern side with the western phase 1. I know the 100 and 7up have clashed before in this kind of El Azahar hillside, but I expected 100 to overall learn from their mistakes, and it seems like they haven't, to be fair, overall. An aid in the direction of both Sands and Church will force him to reposition as Zone is still waiting to get revived up. The good thing for 7up, Zute, is they do have a player across the road, Starkey, which is kind of stopping the 100 from really breaching over that hillside.
This fight is taking quite a bit as the blue zone does start closing in. And now the 100 is going to make the aggressive play by getting a player to flank. Of course, it would be none other than 100 Daddy IGL. Actually, is he doing a flank, or is he just... Well, he's kind of forced to do a flank now, as the buggy wheels might have gotten shot, and he parks in the middle of the open, but that's going to work out. 7-Up is completely surrounded, the pressure is on, and the blue zone is not doing enough damage to have the 100 worry too much about it.
It was near enough kind of distraction play from the 100, and 7-Up allowed themselves to get flustered a bit too heavily, and they're left with just 2. Church, Starkey, they're much further apart. And a nade from Daddy will get the knock, should I say, into Church, and Starkey. All he can do is just run away with his tail between his legs and hopefully continue to survive in this game. All the while, Phase 1 is about to end, and we're looking at where Phase 2 is going to go. Hopefully, we'll be able to have an idea on that.
This is very reminiscent of the very first team fight we saw in Erangel, where the defensive team just held their positions and they didn't try to readjust. And it was the aggressive team that kept changing up their angles, kept changing up their positions, that came out on top. I feel like this is a problem mentality-wise during a fight. When you get pushed, instantly you think we go defensive, right? Because naturally when you get aggressed on, you are defensive. But that doesn't change the fact that you can, as the defensive team, push back and play like we're the ones pushing you guys. Yeah. So I wanted to see one of the 7-Up players make some sort of adjustment. Get in that vehicle, because they do have vehicles, and just flank around. Drive around the sides. Do something so you're not just constantly at the bidding of the aggressive team. And it never works out when you play so defensive against high caliber teams, because high caliber teams will not give you the mistakes that you want to look for.
Fight fire with fire. It's a phrase that can very heavily work out. Sometimes it can go against you. You can get burnt in a third-degree way, and Uncanny they're looking to get burnt as Game Lord continue to just play with their food. Send a psychological BM message and, hey, carry on throughout this game. The one thing I found weird is Mega Power dropped in Picado. They sent one player out on his own. He got knocked down. And it seems like this Nordic side don't really know how they want to really play this game, what they want to do. And Four Men are certainly going to look to take advantage of it. A double knock at the hands of 2 of the Mega Power players. He's Logis left on his own. It's a little bit tricky, but Four Men, they clean it up, they clean it out, just like that. How quick was that fight? Just here today, gone tomorrow, Zute.
Yeah, Four Romanian men looking like a different team. They've quite evolved since the start of the tournament. It looks like they kind of found their identity. They found their confidence for sure, and they're running away with it. They're definitely playing on all cylinders right now.
Choo. The members of Uncanny looking to chew their way into the circle of this phase 2. The blue zone is halfway through. Still 15 teams, 54 players alive. Eastern Stars, they landed on the east. They're moving through the east, but they've gone quite deep in towards the south side. It's a great area to hold on to. I love the sprawling hillsides. Once you grab a control of that terrain, you can really hold on to it, presuming the circle stays in that area.
Oh, Uncanny.
Jesus.
That's a rough one. That's definitely a rough rotation right there. Car's literally on fire. 1 or 2 bullets and this guy's life is done for. Also, if he hits a random rock or a ramp or something, if he bumps that tree, okay. Oh. Okay then. All right.
Oh, yikes.
Yikes. You know, that might have been the longest distance elimination of this tournament, because we actually have no idea where that player blew that car up from. Because you could see cars like super long distance when to a point where you can't even see the players. And there's a chance that, you know, that player that took out... Oh, it was LMV. Okay, LMV took out that player from... Like, we didn't even hear the gunshots. That's the thing, when his car blew up. The gunshots was fired so far away that we didn't hear it, and the car just dink, and it blew up, and he got the elimination. So, that was quite comical to see. But the circle going down far to the southwest. We haven't seen a circle like this yet before in the tournament, so this one's also going to be a first time around for all of these teams.
I really love this area of the map when the circle ends on it, because you have that kind of western hillside that then leads into a valley where there's a road, and another hill really pulls onto that. So the timing of moving from one hill to the other is quite important. It's very risky, but it can work out for you. And then obviously in the predominant area of the circle, likes of Eastern Stars, Bravos, once again, looking to control, looking to sprawl, looking to really contain the other teams around you and allow yourself a much easier entry point into Phase 4.
Yeah, easier entry point if you can get that position to begin with. These positions are going to be highly contested. As you see, a lot of these teams are already set up here, and they're not just holding, you know, one small location. Take a look at Real Tiger 9 here, doing a 1-1-1 split. Because you get there on that high ground, you can afford to play so split, because it's so difficult for teams to breach up there. And even if they do try to breach up there, multiple other teams coming along the sides will potentially third party those teams trying to go up the hillside when they're exposed.
Golden Esports looking to camp LMV on the edge of the circle. 3 eliminations so far for LMV. It did go to Uncanny, the Portuguese teammates actually of Golden Esports. So Golden looking for an unorthodox element of revenge. Unexpected, I would say, is they don't really care who it is, to be perfectly honest. Real Tiger 9. They have the controlling top of the hill. Eastern Stars down on the low ground. It's really not bad to be in the low ground and in this part of the hill, in my opinion, because you're able to kind of peek and shoot a little bit more confidently.
Yeah, the low ground here is technically the low ground compared to the high ground of the other team, but they're still way up on top of the mountain. And I think the circle has shifted a bit more further south once again. The hard shifts today, the consecutive hard shifts towards the same direction today, have been quite uncanny, for the lack of a better word, as Golden looking to readjust their position now.
Oh no!
Oh, no, they got it. They got it. Oh,
you spoke too soon.
That's terrible.
You cast or curse the vehicles, Ute. How does it feel to be so powerful that you can cast or curse a single vehicle?
Oh man, I've been in that situation myself before, especially on Miramar. It's literally the worst feeling in the world.
It is. It's genuinely not uncommon, and that's why, like, I don't look at that and kind of go, oh my god, that's such a stupid mistake. I never tried to use that word anyway in PUBG Mobile casting, but especially like you said in Miramar, I'm just like, yeah, full sympathy for the team. It does slow them down. With this next circle shift though, Valdemar, a little bit more heavily in play. Teams are committing to it.
Yeah, we're seeing some teams finally decide to commit to it. You know, like, you look at the high ground outside of Valdemar. It's like, why aren't teams playing there? Well, the hilltops there have such wide sprawling angles that literally one team could hold the entirety of it down if they play the correct splits. So a lot of teams don't even want to venture or try and break into that position, and instead they're just gonna take the easy way out, so to say, in Valdemar. And who's not to say the circle's gonna not end in Valdemar? It's shifted down to the south every single time so far.
I still don't fully agree with teams going into Valdemar, unless it's a very eastern edge of it, right? That's not only deeper inside the circle, but obviously technically a little bit easier to disengage away should the circle shift away. We'll have to wait to see how it works out. As Real Tiger 9 on towards the northern edge. They're surrounded by a couple of teams. They need to focus on one fight at a time. Game Lord, Glore, which one you want to take, Real Tiger 9? You're committing, you're disengaging. Either way, you got to make a move. Narvello, luckily, going to third party onto Glore and get a knock.
Nice shots by Narvello from downrange right there. Big on the other side of things. Not having a really good day today. They didn't start off too hot game 1, but they are able to get the full reset here. It looks like they full sent it into that church, and they did take a lot of casualties. But ultimately, they'll get that reset. They only lose 1 player in the process. LMV on the southern side of things might decide to use the water. Yeah, might decide to use the water, and there you go, Goldie. They're hunting you down. You better start swimming.
Yeah, why not? You could be like a goldfish and survive the blub. He might not, of course, have recognition or memory of what happened, but if he grabs a couple of points for his team, I'm sure his teammates can remind him. Golden Esports are going to be reminded of what happened to them as Chazmak are just pushing in, scaling through on the edge of the circle in a confident way. Faria, one of 2 players left for Golden Esports, hanging on to the western edge of Valdemar.
I want to see Golden Esports try and take that elimination as soon as possible. It's an isolated 2v1. You have the high ground. Why wait for the circle shift? Chances are you're not going to get it on that edge. May as well pick up an elim and potentially put yourself a placement higher. As the next circle does shift on out, it looks like it's going to go to the north. Wait, is that just to the southeast? I think that is to the southeast. I saw some water in play.
No, northeast.
Oh, no.
It's actually northeast.
Okay. That's a circle shift away from Valdemar for sure.
I hate to say I told you so. I hate to say I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. But Chazmak are going to tell 4 Romanian men, though, on how to get the job done. Sarah, the last player up. Nade after nade after nade. The barrage going to be sent into the building by the members. Chazmak could be a third-party opportunity for a couple of teams. Bravos have a bit of a split. Teams down the south who did commit to Valdemar are going to have to try and disengage and move into the southern edge of the circle. Luckily, I think on that south edge, there's a little bit of a low ground, which could pocket protect them from the teams up north.
4 Romanian men doing all that he can to survive, dodging and weaving nades and molotovs for his dear life. Chasmog might just decide to, okay, this is... Yeah, but you've seen these pushes here go terribly wrong, but now they are going to decide to push in, and they do get the finish right there. So Chasmog Gaming continuing the momentum from game number 1. 4 Romanian men get shut down early. This gives leeway for Eastern Stars, though, to show what they've got from the Romanian side as they control the high ground from a very nice position. But they got to be a little bit careful about Game Lord and make sure they don't give Game Lord an opportunity to push on in. And I love that split. They're keeping one player outside of the circle right now on the high ground to pressure out as much as possible before going in.
Exactly. I completely noticed that and I went to point it out, but you got there first. Happy days. Really fantastic split. But they also need to low-key push on Bravos. However, I now understand the perspective of why they low-key can't, because Red Moon on the hill above, and it's why it makes this area of the circle or area of the map quite tricky, can get the third-party shots onto members of Eastern Stars should they push on the Bravos.
Glor, the last one up, is going to make his presence known. Just go for the confirmation. Nice. We'll get that confirmation. That does take Glor, or not Glor, Game Lord down to 2. And instantly, you see those shots that ring out, and you see the players of Eastern Stars start looking that way and venturing over that way as well.
They track the kill feed. They recognize that member Game Lord is out. They know that. They might not know there's only 2, but they certainly know it's not a full squad. However, it seems like they're going for the push on the Eastern Stars. Kapahala was knocked. Louis suffers a ton of damage, is forced to pull out a full med kit. That's a good 8 seconds to pull that off. Where's the rest of the team? And where's the rest of Eastern Stars? They see them. Lou is going to get knocked. Doran is going to pick it up. But Breaker, he needs to get out of the shack and into the fight. And Molly up the stairs. Spyro as well. He's going to be up the stairs. Throws out a pre-nade. Nearly works out. Doesn't quite connect. Bravos, they've been put down to 2.
Oh, Bravos right there. They needed to be a little bit more proactive once again. We saw a player of Eastern Stars get knocked up top on top of the hill, so that was an opening for them to kind of get more aggressive as the Overwatch was knocked. Spyro trying to do the best he can.
Oh, that's good.
Grenade, but it's not a cooked one. If he can stall long enough, though, but nope. 1v3 in the house. They will go down. Down to 1. Bravis does have a player right in the middle of the zone, just chilling. Big has gotten the reset, and they're still in the game with 3. Chasmok looking so strong right now with a total of 9 eliminations. And look at Shadowin. Shadowin is just across the road by himself, being like a one-man army right now.
It's so good. The proactivity from Chasmok is just a beautiful sight on the eyes, not gonna lie. Coco from across the hill. Red Moon, the sole Italian representative in today's games. They opened the day with 9 points. They said it needs to be a little bit more, guys. Yes, they can't control that the likes of Eastern Stars and 4 Romanian men kind of get good results, but they control their own, and they're certainly controlling their own game, their own destiny in this second game of the day.
Big right now, finally getting whittled down, and Chasmok, of course, looking so on point. These teams are definitely showing up today. Wow, 12 eliminations with 4 up, with quite a few players left alive on the map. Chasmok might just get this one with 15 or so. As on the Eastern side of things, Eastern Stars are getting into a huge fight with Red Moon. This is a great opportunity for Chasmok to control some more ground. And just as I say that, look at that adjustment into a 2-2 wider split. They're controlling the north, they're controlling the south, and effectively they're controlling everything in the middle as well as they take out the Bravis player. And that is Bravis out in 4th place.
Are they biting off more than they can chew? I would say no, because I think this is the right move. Even if it doesn't work out, it's the right move to make. Communication is going to be key. They've shown that they can communicate. They show they've been able to fight as a team. 14 eliminations proves it in this game alone. But there's 2 teams around them that are more than ready for the fight. Back behind, Coco turns around. Sorry, it's Red X that gets a knock onto Trazen, and Trazen is going to get confirmed up. Will he? Won't he? No, he won't. The smoke comes through and the revive is laid out.
Massive save right there. That player should be eliminated. Trazen, even though he's going to get revived here, I hope he learns that that was a mistake by him. He was holding a crucial angle point in that new circle. He does not need to go for the knocks. He just needs to stay alive, maintain info, and keep pressure. Luckily for him, though, he gets revived. Chasmok Gaming will keep up 4. As Eastern Stars have to make the first move now with that circle, they're slowly creeping on in. But the sightlines between Red Moon and Eastern Stars are definitely in lethal range.
This is a little bit of that typical 3-way dance where the first team to make some noise could be the first team to go out, right? Because everybody has sightlines on each other. It's the fact that Chasmok has that 2-2 split that gives them just that little bit more confidence to push on one side because you have cover on the other. Doran feels the wrath of Pocus. Eastern Stars being whittled down to 2. Make that 1 as Bazzi. It's going to go down to Shadowin. Methodical play from Chasmok. 15 eliminations and counting. A potential 18 elimination chicken dinner on the cards. I wouldn't be damn surprised if they finish off Eastern Stars. Now it's just Red Moon left to be their next victims in play. Redix is knocked. Coco left alive, followed by Versace. And Versace is going to get spotted out. Job done. Chasmok with the chicken dinner.
Chasmok with 20 elimination chicken dinner.
Damn.
That is, I mean, we saw you said it, methodical indeed. They were controlling everything. I was saying they are controlling the north and they're controlling the south, and essentially they control everything in the middle by doing their formation that way. And then they adjusted it once again to take not just one team fight at a time, but 2 team fights at a time. But they did it in a way where they focus out one team first, and on the other side of things, they just made sure to keep up a safe pressure. They didn't risk pushing 2 teams at the same time and having it go wrong. So they isolated one team and finished out the other, and then they could fully focus on the last team. It was beautifully done. The synergy, the plays, well done by Chasmok Gaming.
It's so good to see. Like, it's so good to see. The one player that I really want to spotlight on Chasmok, and for a specific reason within it, is Pocus. Because Pocus back in 2019, 2020, I regarded as one of the most exciting European PUBG Mobile players. Close quarter combat, very rarely beaten. And he did continue that with UDR Killers. Of course, what they achieved together, UDR Killers, that can't be taken away. But a possible lack of motivation, a possible lack of kind of focus, it felt like Pocus had lost his touch. In this Chasmac side, he's found it again. He has really found that aggression. He's found that firecracker play, and he's extremely dangerous.
All it really takes is the correct teammates and synergy, right? We've seen star players on teams that just aren't the right fit for them in various esports. We've seen certain players like, I do believe, actually, drawing into the Chinese side of things for PEC, there is a player, the name escapes my head, but this player was a star player, and he ended up getting benched on his team, and then he ended up getting transferred to another team, and then on that team, with the playstyle that he quite enjoyed playing, really started to flourish, and that team in and of itself became like a top 3 team in China. So it really does come down to your teammates and who you synergize with. There's so many different playstyles and different personalities, so as far as Pocus goes, I'm hoping this Chasmac one is going to be the right fit for him, and is looking really good right now.
What's also looking good is a break. Show you the highlights. We'll go back to the match rankings of Game 2. And Game 3 will be coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back to the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. We're into week number 3, day number 2. 2 games down. Second game in Miramar Zute was won by Chazmak Gaming, and a fully deserving chicken dinner at that.
Oh, that game was one for the books. We saw Chazmak just absolutely tear it up. They absolutely dominated. Like, they had 20 eliminations. 20. If you do some quick maths, 64 players at the start of the lobby, minus the 4 including your team. That's 60 total enemies left on the map, and they took out 20 of them. That's 1/3 of the entirety of the lobby falling down to the side of Chazmak Gaming.
How many eliminations?
20.
Wait, just sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you say that again?
Take 5 times 4, because each team has 4 players. Take 5 teams. Chazmak killed a total of 5 teams.
Cool.
5 times 4, 20.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, good thing I'm not Max and I can work out that quick math. Got me there, man. But yeah, looking at the match rankings, yeah, you said it yourself. Just 1/3 of the lobby from Chazmak Gaming. Bish bash bosh, 35 points in the bag. They've had a total of 56 across the first 2 games, I might add as well. So it's a very Chazmak kind of day, and I absolutely love to see it. Eastern Stars, though, good return to form, I would say. They had a quite tricky position on the more lower ground side of the hill, in which Red Moon was threatening them a little bit more, and I get why they couldn't really push up. Maybe if they had committed to possibly Game Lord side a little bit earlier, they might have controlled that and even overtaken Chazmak. But at the end of the day, they committed to where they were. They stayed there, and it got them a rewarding 19 points.
By the way, Chazmak and Game Lord, they're from the French side, correct?
They are.
And
yes,
the French side, we were saying how they're widening the point gap. They're not letting anyone get close to first place, and then they go ahead and do this. Like,
yep.
Like, what is driving them to do? They had more than 100-point lead before this. Now they want to stretch it to a 200-point lead? Is that what their goal is now at this point? It's like, these guys are just, I mean, they've already won, in my opinion, but they're playing harder than they've ever played before.
Yes, exactly. And it's not just Game Lord now. It really is genuinely. It's a double trouble. It's a teamwork. It's a duo, with Chazmak joining forces in a really confident way over the last 5 to 6 games, to be fair. And just to kind of extend a little bit on that as well, back in 2020, when PMCO France was introduced, as well as PMCO Germany, it was kind of laughed at, right? Because people thought, oh, there's not enough good teams in France. Why is there a PMCO France? There doesn't need to be a PMCO France. At the end of the day, much like the restructuring of this whole 2022 esports season, there's a reason behind it, because it laid the foundations for the next year and a half of building of the French community, to building of the French teams, to the point where you have not only one team, but you have 2, possibly 3, possibly 4, and a multitude of players that can compete at a really high level within PUBG Mobile esports. I could say the same for, of course, other regions, but just to kind of specify France, it was laughed at when PMCO France first came along, and look at where it's helping get the whole region within the esports spectrum. It's great to see. It's so good to see.
I love that you mentioned that, laying down the foundations, because that's where it starts. Then you can scale up a bit higher, and you've essentially like lit a fire in these regions, and the fire is just blazing away. And a very good example is the teams of Chazmak and Game Lord. Like, this is not, once again, the highest level of tournaments by any means, but this is really good practice. This is practice for them to assert their dominance and really see where they could take things. And the confidence alone of knowing what you can do when things are done correctly and taking it to the bigger stages, it's a really good feeling and something to strive towards.
Yeah, that's why I kind of touch upon Pocus individually, right, and his maybe resurgence as an individual player, because, yeah, indeed, this isn't the highest level of competition within a lobby. You add a multitude of Turkish and CIS teams to this lobby, and it would certainly be a much harder job for Chazmak. But when you as an individual player, when you as a team go into those bigger tournaments with that confidence, with that foundation of power, with that foundation of communication, synergy, strategy, you put yourself in a much better chance to succeed against those stronger teams.
Well, speaking about succeeding, let's take a look at, the next match, Sandhawk, right? This is kind of at the point of the, routine in the day when we switch over to Sandhawk. Everything kind of changes up simply due to the way the map is able to be played out. We see teams that might have not done as well maybe show up here, and usually teams that have done well in the first 2 games might run into a bit of a rougher time on Sandhawk due to the nature of it.
I very rarely talk about the playing path in Sandhawk, but I do have to say this is a little bit more of the trickier ones, being quite heavily on the south. I don't think it's gonna really put too many teams off balance, but yeah, it's just something to highlight as a bit of an awkward playing path. LMV going to that western side as opposed to the eastern side. 7-Up as well, going for a Hatting split, but they did go there in previous days. Greek Army also on that northwest island.
I feel like there is definitely a few more players on that northwestern island than usual due to that playing path. As far as the split goes, the split looks like they're kind of starting to, intersect with one another. The rest of the teams on the map will glide to their drop locations. Quite a far distance to glide through, but they're making it work right now. And no real hot drops coming through. Sandhawk, definitely a map where these teams are very familiar with everyone's dropping, and they're quite respectable as far as where their boundaries are.
Red Moon split between the west side of Quarry and the northern side of Quarry is a little bit risky, especially when you take into account that very western playing path. Split drops become, a lot riskier, and in my opinion, I would advise against it. In this kind of level of competition, why make things harder for yourself as a team? Why make things harder for yourself as a player? That's the price you pay. LMV have paid a price by going for the 1v1 against Church, and Church, along with the rest of 7-Up, come out on top.
Ooh, 7-Up with a very nice drop shot there. I think he had every disadvantage on him. He had no vest. He had a Tommy gun against the UMP, and the UMP is just quite resoundingly better. I don't know if the other player had a vest or not, but that drop shot, those mechanics come through, wins that 1v1. But can he make it out alive, as the rest of LMV is here to try and pick up the kill?
Is the UMP resoundingly better than the Tommy gun in a kind of 1v1 close quarter combat?
It's better. It's definitely better. But the Tommy gun by no means is a bad gun. The Tommy gun is a very strong gun. We were in a Tommy gun meta right before they buffed the UMP.
Exactly.
So the Tommy gun will fall in right behind the UMP. But you see players always typically take the UMP over the Tommy gun, and it's for a good reason.
Fair. I also, I suppose, regarded the buff and the strength of the UMP with the variability of being able to stick up to 6x scope onto it, right? And that's what has allowed it to make it even more within the meta. But you do bring a good point, and it's part of the reason why I asked the question. Golden Esports going to have to ask themselves a question of whether or not they're going to be able to win out this fight against Game Lord. Good position by Louis. Doesn't waste any time going for the shots on the Spicy, confirming that kill. Unfortunately, another one of his teammates has gone down to the hands of an Akashi nade. Game Lord down to 2. Could be a bit of an early bath for the Game Lord side. What has been a first kind of week and a half, 2 weeks of Game Lord domination, not only against all the other teams, but I suppose their French community teammates. Now Chazmak, they're shining. They're carrying the weight of the French community.
Game Lord down to 2. Looks like They want to take this fight. They're gonna get that full reset though onto the golden side. Akashi had a really beautiful double grenade, and it was a 1v2, but he did not feel like he could pressure it. He's gonna play defensive instead with the UMP. Gets one,
Oh
gets
my
two.
god.
Where's his teammate? I know his teammate was running on foot, but he's gotta get here soon. Akashi with a double and a triple.
Oh my god.
That's a triple. Akashi just absolutely dancing on golden, stepping on their toes, not giving a single care in the world, just demolishing golden. 1v3, 1v4. I want to see it happen. The second player of Game Lords don't even show up. Akashi's got this in the bag.
God damn. Akashi just delivered a golden shower to Golden Esports right in front of their eyes, and I can only imagine how much it burns. And that was even on the left-hand side of the wall, right? You talked about the peaks and the advantage being on the right-hand side. Akashi kind of proved that wrong. He kind of went against the grain and still came out on top. Now Mega Power, they dropped in Picado. They moved out of Picado. They would have heard those shots. It could go horribly wrong for Game Lord if they don't close out this fight against Golden Esports.
The plays by Akashi were pristine. Unfortunately for him, one of his knocks got stolen away by the side.
Oh,
of
really?
Mega Power. Yeah, it's saying he only has 2 kills right now. We definitely saw him take down 3 players, but I mean, we caught it on camera at least. That's a highlight play right there for him.
And I would argue that's kind of free information over to Game Lord because they know that there's another team looking around them. Therefore, they're not going to be so like blindly aggressive against the last player of Golden Esports. So even though it's not an elimination point, it could be that kind of late game survivability point against them, which gives them more points in the end.
I think Akashi, could he spot him out there from that angle? No, Akashi did not. They're going to clear the buildings together as a team. Marcio could get a 1v2 here. Oh, Akashi with the bait volt right there. Akashi volted and then instantly backed down, and that caused Mauricio to fire off his shots. I don't know how purposeful that bait was by Akashi, but still, just the reaction speed and the plays out Akashi. Beautifully done out of the Game Lord team.
With how he played so far in this game alone, I would say that was an intentional bait coming out. It's something that we've seen, I think, a good few players start to do, especially around those walls, because you kind of nearly need to bait them out. And that was perfectly executed. Phase 2 pops up, and it's a bit of a tricky shift because it has quite a good bit at Northwest Island. The river is in play, the Southwest Island, the trifecta, and the Bootcamp Hill. Those are the key parts of Phase 2 in my eyes.
Bootcamp definitely a very big part of this map. Now we might even see Mega Power go into Bootcamp because we've seen them hold Bootcamp, like a Bootcamp split, quite comfortably. Want to see if they decide to do it this time around again with that circle shift. But as for all these other teams, well, all they got to do is really edge in. Teams in the middle already set up in different positions that they want to take. Bravis, it looks like they're maybe venturing into Bootcamp right now themselves.
No.
They'll find a good timing to do so as the rest of the Mega Power hasn't fully funneled in yet.
That Mega Power down to 2 players? I don't know, because it's a little bit further out. It initially looks so. I don't know how they lost a couple of players. Maybe it was a Bravis third party, which has given Bravis the confidence to push into Bootcamp.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. How did
Mega?
They drop in Bootcamp uncontested, and Bootcamp's got a lot of cover. So, I don't know. That's yeah, I thought Mega Power had 4, which is why I was saying, like, they can move into Bootcamp and hold a nice split. But if they're down to 2, no, there's 3 right here. There's 3 of Mega Power. There might be a 4th one too on screen, just a little bit further away.
Okay.
Yeah, but Bravis is moving in to Bootcamp. They are definitely aware of one another as they are in audio cue distance for their footsteps.
I don't really like the fact that 3 of the Bravis players are in that warehouse. If possible, I'd like to see one kind of wrap a little bit to the north of where we currently see, to that kind of trifecta building. It would give them way better angle of pressure and play. Super Mikael does have a good angle, but it's very limited. It's very isolated, and the timing of the angle needs to be absolutely perfect. in my eyes. Right now, it's good for Bravos, and Super Miguel is being a bit more proactive. I think that's a better position to hold on to, but by no means secure.
Taking shots into Painan here, Uncanny from the hilltop side. Not able to fully connect onto the big player. Big taking up Painan. Currently just chilling for now until we see the next circle shift. Many of these teams are just waiting for that next circle shift, as the circle didn't really go anywhere from circle 1 to 2. It kind of just centered up quite nicely. So, yeah. Oh, Mega Power started off as a 3-man. So, that is why. There we go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we usually see them as a 4-man, though. So, wondering what happened to their 4th player. As Logist getting a little bit proactive here, trying to find a cheeky angle. But Super Mikhail should stay safe for now, as long as he plays inside those one-story shack concrete buildings. Yeah.
And I appreciate the effort from Logis, even just to get information. Because if he had to stay there for a little bit longer, you're asking to get stabbed in the back from another team up to Boot Camp Hill, right? So I love that awareness from Logis. He moved out, got information, moved back in, and Rex. The opening knock onto Bravos, followed by a second by Negro. The communication is strong. They may only start this game as a 3-person team, but right now they're acted like a full squad, and they do find themselves with the body advantage.
They're pushing on in. It's a 2v3 situation. Bravos could still easily win this if Mega Power gets a little bit too aggressive and don't push in together as a team and pushing correctly. But they are indeed pushing in together as a team. They isolate one player. That's another player down. Morphe Boy just playing too slow, too quiet to come into effect. Now it's a 1v3, and yep, just like that, the UMP absolutely melted him.
Like, I also don't get why Spyro kind of moved so far out of the boxes within the warehouse, right? You know, when you know you have the body disadvantage, try to play to the advantage of what you have around you surroundings-wise. And I think also, outside of what were pretty clean knocks, once again, Bravos didn't really have that player in the right angle to counter or suppress Mega Power in the right way. Great play by Mega Power all the same. Cannot take it away from them.
I mean, you question Bravos' setup initially when they had 3 players in the warehouse. You knew that they could not do much from those angles, and you knew even if they had a man advantage, it was most likely that the other side, Mega Power, would have the positional advantage, and the positional advantage definitely played out there. We're back onto another team, the 4 Romanian men. Super good day for them thus far. Greek Army also on your screen, holding down the trifecta area of the river. This is a highly contested part of the map, as it is pretty much the access points to various sections of the rest of the zone.
Especially with how these first 2 to 3 circles have been shifting, with no real certainty on how and where this circle or where this game is going to end, should I say. So having the trifecta area under control is so important. Game Nord, of course, lost 2 players in the battle against Golden Esports. Victor and Akashi opting to kind of go through a little bit of boot camp, and honestly, I hold nothing against them for that. Because when you're down to a duo, kind of going from building to building, even though it's in boot camp, can be sometimes the safer route.
Yeah. As a 2-man, you don't want to be outside in the open. Because just one player getting knocked and you're down to just one last player alive. So taking some close quarter fights is the better way to go. You won't have as high of a chance as getting third-partied either when taking a fight inside boot camp. Looking at 4 Romanian men now. We're back onto them. They're getting very close to the Greek Army side. This is going to be a fight that will break out. Greek Army, though, will they get aggressive off the knocks, or will they continue to hold defensively and just let 4 Romanian men reset over and over until 4 Romanian men get the advantage over Greek Army? So off of that knock, though, I do like how what Greek Army is doing. So instead of just continuing to hold as offensive and not do anything, they're going to readjust their formation.
Exactly.
So some proactiveness at least.
Yeah, and I think because you're at the tail end of Phase 3, they do have a player in Sania across the river into the mainland. They don't need to take the fight. The timing Is it right in this moment that they recognize that, of course, there's no security on them controlling this area of the map? Next circle pops up, and we're heading towards boot camp, baby. Let's goddamn frickin' go, Zute.
Oh man, you missed it the last time we had a boot camp circle, but maybe this one will be it. With that circle shift, Greek army's got to fight their way in. Same with 4 Romanians. 7-Up's going to take that swim across. Red Moon holding a good defense inside zone. Real Tiger 9, they can reset this. They have zone. They have time to play with. They don't have to make this push just yet. But Red Moon, actually, one of them do get knocked. So Real Tiger 9 not going to let that knock slow them down. They want this position. They want to break further into the circle. And it's looking pretty good for now.
Victor Power from Real Tiger 9. Versace is going to go down to his knees, and Coco. Let's see if he has a snap, crackle, and pop. He does for the first knock, but he has to follow up. Bit of a third party does slow Real Tiger 9 down, as Ayu is going to be put down to the ground. But still 2 players up against the 1 of Red Moon. We move on over to the 100. Looking for possibly kill number 100 for the team. I don't know. I'm just going to predict it because their name is the 100. But either way, they're taking the fight against Big, and they've gotten a knock on to Beast at least.
The trade does come through from Mazzaro. This battle for this hilltop is definitely a tricky one. Never an easy fight, even if you're on the high ground here, because the pre-angles are so easy to peek out. So they could just line up your head, know you're peeking from that wizard tower. But Daddy IGL playing so smart and passive there in the snake, and that's gonna give the 100 a huge favor, as not just they have a man advantage, but the third parties might come in soon from Eastern Stars onto the side of Big.
Like a slithering snake, Daddy waits in the wings to cause destruction amongst the masses of this PMECT lobby. Eastern Stars only starting this game as a trio as well, similar to Mega Power, but they do have all 3 of their players alive. So that's the most important part so far. Glor's in front of them, who has 1 of their players knocked. 3 of those players still alive. Beast waiting. Doesn't quite want to get the revive of the Mazzaro. If you're going to stay behind the rock, why not at least go for it? I don't know why he let his teammate die like that. But now he's on his own.
I think he was probably expecting the push, right? He knows that the 100 knows that they're down to a solo player. So he's expecting to not be able to get a revive off to begin with. But the 100 actually don't push at all, because one of their players was getting third party from distance from boot camp. So that might have been what slowed everything down. I feel like that's a little bit of a slipper from the 100.
Okay.
They have 3 players up. Put some pressure fire back into boot camp. Go take the 2v1 onto Beast or something. Like, that was not a situation where they had to lose 1 player. They could have attempted to do something there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I slightly disagree. I think that was very sensible play from the 100. Whittling a team down to 1 player is you know, extremely effective in boot camp, and I think there was a level of proactivity where even though they lost a player, they're thinking, okay, let's play for the next circle. They're inside this next circle. Unfortunately, it shifts away from the majority of boot camp, and now they can look down this boot camp hill into the masses of the players and the teams that want to push forward, but they do have to watch their backs.
They dedicate 2 players to their flank and 1 player in zone to farm some eliminations. That's a nice setup and adjustment for them, seeing as how they're now down to 3. Glor trying to cross this road. Grows a long range. Definitely a strong gun close range, but the recoil on that gun at this distance. And he realizes he does not have time for the first aid. He's gonna take some shots. Not able to connect any there. I think the Real Tiger 9 players were getting gate kept instead from the boot camp side. And, well, there goes down Beast.
Oh, I don't know what he was doing, but either way, it goes downhill for Big, and out they go. Mega Power landed in boot camp, stayed in boot camp, dominate boot camp. That's going to be the end of Real Tiger 9. But one of the Mega Power players is knocked. Chazmac of all teams playing in from the blue, looking to push in towards the boot camp buildings. hurting them massively. Shadow Wen, down to a sliver of health, has to continue to wait. By this time, while Axer possibly goes for the revive onto his teammate, the first aid has been successfully pulled out by Shadow Wen. Now he can focus on taking down Rex. It's in 1v2. He's going to try and take the chance, but it isn't going to work out for them. I believe that is now Chazmak left with just 2 players up.
Chazmak down to 2. B100 still fighting with Eastern Stars here as the circle did shift uphill a little bit south of the map towards where the IC player, or where IC boss is. Eastern Stars, they have only a short distance to cover, but they know the 100's in front of them, so they got to play this very carefully. They got time to work with as they're on the slow side of blue zone, and IC is actually gonna go down to the buildings. I don't know.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it might be a play that where he just does not feel comfortable up there and feels a little bit safer down here, but in the long term, that might work against them.
Because that hill peak is so it's so harsh that you can't really play the low ground advantage being inside those buildings. Really, the 100 have allowed Eastern Stars to make the breach. We'll have to wait and see if it is successful. 4 Romanian men on the other side looking for the tailbone of the end of Greek army, and nade towards the side of the rock should clean them up. Not quite, but the blue zone will help get the job done, followed by another molly. Redox box does follow down, and there you go. Come on, Greek army, how are you still holding on? I don't know. In comes the rest of 4 Romanian men, and with 10 eliminations, this is another strong game from the Romanian side.
And like you predicted, Eastern Stars take out B100 because they fell back into the building and they can't do anything from in there. 4 Romanian men versus Eastern Stars. We still have 1 player in boot camp doing the med strats. I think that might be a mega power team. 4 Romanian men, this is going to be a really bad timing for them if the mega power player decides to shoot. But, Logist is spotted out. Zone is starting to close, so 4 Romanian men are not gonna, hopefully they won't give a free knockover, and Eastern Stars getting super proactive, taking a buggy or some sort of vehicle downhill to establish a new angle.
Oh no!
But that just works in favor of 4 Romanian men, as Logis from the blue zone will confirm 1 4v2 situation. This is looking good for the 4 Romanian men to secure another chicken dinner for the day.
I don't know if I should hold that against Kapahala. Romania versus Romania. Bini ba, my friends. Either way, it's a Ibesk chicken dinner. Will it be a Krapahala moment for Eastern Stars? Will it be a term in that play for 4 Romanian men? Either way, Doran and Bazzi, they have little to 0 health to play with. Doran's going to move down the sidelines of the hill. He opens the knock, but Dexter's going to trade. A very important trade. It is Bazzi left on his own, and he's going for the revive. No way that's going to work out. You don't do it at the tail end of the game. It's a very risky play. Sarah has 1 angle to the side, Dexter on the other. However, they are separated. Sarah's going to throw in a nade. It's going to be push coming in. Bazzi knows that he can isolate it, but the nade is going to execute Eastern Stars and 4 Romanian men. Another chicken dinner.
Wow, Eastern Stars, I have to say, definitely a mistake out of them going for that revive. I mean, it's play to the strengths of your players. Don't rely on the fact that the 4 Romanian men will give you a free revive like that. No way would the 4 Romanian team do that. But either way, really good game for the Romanian side. A number 1 spot and a number 2 spot to follow it up. That's a huge game for them.
And I'm going to be doing some quick maths during the break to try and calculate how many points the German community have gotten today so far. Because when you look at the 2 chicken dinners in a day for 4 Romanian men, rise in performance for Eastern Stars between the Miramar game and this 3rd game in Sandhawk. The chase is on, the heat is on for Germany, and I can see Romania take that 2nd spot.
Yeah, it's the 2nd place is looking good for Romania right now. And just that Sandhawk game, like, we didn't get it in boot camp like we hoped for.
I know.
But I love the dynamic of it shifting to that hilltop side. And we saw You know, something that we see quite a lot when you're defending that hill, teams that default to that little house that the 100 did, it usually never works out for them. And I think that's a lesson to be learned. We talked about on Sandhawk, at certain times, you want to almost sacrifice players to stop a team. It's okay for you to lose a player. You don't have to keep everyone up.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I know the 100 only have 2 players left, but I think it was Will. I think Will should have just stayed uphill, sacrificed himself out and way, slow down the Eastern Stars enough to give his last teammate from downhill in the house a better fighting chance, rather than just, you know, turtling up with them and laying over.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you anymore. Let's head on over to the highlights on what was a very action-packed Sandhawk game. But don't go away. When we're back, we'll have the match rankings of that third game, followed by the final game of the day. You won't want to miss it, so stick around and see you in a few. we're back. 3 games down, 1 more to go. I hate to be cliche, Zute, but once again, just going like an action-packed day. A big rise in productivity, strength for the Romanian side, capped off by a 1-2 in this 3rd game.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for Romania as far as, trying to get that 2nd place position. But taking a look at the match rankings, did they really get the 1st and 2nd overall, though? And taking a look at the match rankings, Eastern Stars did get 2nd as far as the placement points goes. But Mega Power, as a 3-man squad, by the way, got 13 eliminations. That must have all been happening while they were fighting everyone in boot camp, and we were focused on the fights outside of boot camp. So Mega Power actually ended it with a lot of eliminations that we were not aware of.
Yeah, fair play to Mega Power, starting this game as a 3-person team, as did Eastern Stars, I might add, on a side note. So 2 of the top 3 teams starting this game not as a full 4-man squad. But just to kind of, I've done the quick math. Romania today in the first 3 games has scored 97 points.
Wow. And so they're going to break that 100 easily.
Oh yeah, easily.
They're going to break that 100 easily. And we were talking about how, there's like 100+ point gap between number 1 and like number 2, which could come into play if it wasn't for the fact that France actually is just also just dominating today too. Like they're just, the amount of points they're racking up, just matching the momentum that's coming out of the Romanian side. But real quick before we go any further, shout outs to the 100, showing up in that match. They've kind of fallen off once again, but they're, picking it right back up. It's more consistent than before, though. Before, in the first week, it would take like 2 or 3 days before we saw some signs of life. Now it's like maybe they had 1 slow day, but they're back with a good, decent finish. And Greek Army, we're consistently seeing them in the top 8 now.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking at that, and I'm becoming less and less surprised, and not necessarily less and less impressed, because it's more just that kind of like, it's becoming so familiar that I'm like, oh yeah, Greek Army, that makes sense. Like, continue on, my friends. But of course, as we start to see that being less surprising, we start to raise our expectations, right?
Yes.
Where's the next level of Greek Army? Will they be able to hit that next step up the ladder of this event and grab more consistent double-digit points? I hope to see it, but for the time being, well done. I'm really glad you pointed out. On the opposite end of the scale, though, I highlighted Romania's 97 points in the first 3 games. Germany, 32. Ooh. And when you look back at the points difference between Romania and Germany coming into today's games, 47 points. I know there's still 1 more game to go, but as of right now, Romania has jumped into 2nd place.
Romania coming in very strong today, just absolutely tearing it up. Also, France, of course, had that 20 elimination game. Powerhouse teams now, where we're fully like well into this tournament, and I think we've seen teams come up, we've seen them take a little bit of a back seat, but now that we're nearing the finish line, so to say, I'm really happy to see the top dogs in the lobby. They're not letting it up any. They're not taking it easy, and if anything, they're gonna try and close out this one with quite a bang.
Like, I'm also even just calculating kind of Chazmak's scores as well from the first couple of games, and they've had overall banger after banger. Even like 10 points in this 3rd game, it's still a good result. 6 eliminations. Yeah. So 21 in game 1. Game 2 they had 35, so that was 56. 66 points in 3 games for Chazmak. That's an average of 22 points a game.
That's an average of a chicken dinner and 7 eliminations a game. Imagine winning 3 chickens in a row with 7 eliminations.
Man.
That's pretty much what they're doing right now with their average point spread. Really amazing to see. And this is Chasmak, by the way. We're usually talking about Game Lord when it comes to France. This is Chasmak we're talking about. So, huge day for them. Love to see it. Definitely love seeing, you know, the little brother of each region coming out strong. Just like 4 Romanian men and Eastern Stars. This is 4 Romanian men's, you know, show now, not just the Eastern Star show. So a lot of improvements out of, you know, all spectrums of the regions and teams.
Red Moon getting 0 points is an unfortunate dampener on what was 15 points in game 2. And once again, just to highlight, they're the sole Italian representatives in today's games. They're lucky that Germany overall with 2 representatives have had a pretty poor day as it is, but with Romania having the strong day that they're having, it just kind of once again it starts to see Italy, you know, move further away from the pack. I know it's not easy for Red Moon again, but following a 15 point with a 0 pointer is just it's a little bit deflating for them as a team, for their confidence, for their motivation coming into the final game.
We talked a little bit about it coming into Sandhawk, right? Sandhawk is a map where even if you do well the games previous, it could be a map that you just absolutely do terrible on due to the nature of the map. And Red Moon, yeah, they had a strong finish. Second map of Miramar. Sandhawk, it's a complete like 180 shift, which, you know, some teams can make a consistent performance on, like 4 Romanian men. We've seen them, you know, carry that momentum into Sandhawk, a really good game. And then also we saw just yesterday, right, Game Lord, they utilized like rotational strategies on Sandhawk, which is something that's very uncommon to see, but they had a specific plan out, you know, pathing for a potential shift, and it worked out beautifully for them. So as RNG as Sandhawk is, it is still a map that you could take by the horns, so to say, and make it, you know, your map and do well on it. A very good example is PMGC West. We saw the Brazilians dominate Sandhawk over and over. It was to a point where every time when we went to, you know, predictions on who's gonna you know, take the map, all of the analysts and casters would pick a Brazilian team because their play style of the aggression that they're so well known for is what, you know, really puts them out on top on Sandhawk. So Sandhawk is doable as far as consistency goes. It's just a very different type of style you have to, you know, get down.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Really couldn't agree with you more. We're heading into the final game of the day. It's back over to Erangel. So, for a bit of a kind of question to lay it on the ground, what team would you like to see do well in this final game of the day? Do you have a team you'd like to see do well?
I would have to run with, if there's one team that I want to see do well, obviously I favor Big a little bit simply because I want to see them get, you know, another chicken. Yeah. But with their performance today, they've been so lackluster that I don't even want to, you know, give it over to them. Like, nothing against them, but I feel like there's another team that's a little more deserving, right? I feel like if we got to see either the 100 or Greek Army, you know, show, that would be really nice to see because they're keeping up their consistency. We just saw just now the 100 show, you know, a little sparkle once again. So between those two teams, that would, you know, be really cool to see for me. Get the chicken dinner.
Yeah, I'm on that. I'm also on top of the Chasmak hype train, to be perfectly fair. And I had a consistent, strong day yesterday. Bring on this final game. Another double-digit set of points. Let's go, Chasmak. Focus all the way. Let's see if they can lay down some magic, some hocus-pocus, alakazam in this final game. The playing path, you can see it is a little bit on towards the east, starting on the Lepovka, ending down towards military base. Makes it a little bit difficult for teams that want to go towards George Paul. But other than that, it seems like the teams have been adjusting to drop spots quite well. However, Uncanny It's an uncanny drop spot. They should know the Eastern Stars will probably go there.
That is very uncanny. They're not just they're contesting Eastern Stars, but they're contesting them in a split fashion. Whereas Eastern Stars, you know, they've never been dropped on before, but they made a really quick adjustment on the fly to stack the side of, you know, the big Milton Power. So really cool to see out of the Eastern Stars, a team that's definitely always on their toes. They've never been contested here, and then the second they do, mid-flight, mid-drop, they adjust their players over to take the challenge to Uncanny. And Uncanny, it just looks like they're kind of dropping in here unprepared.
I do want to give Uncanny just a tiny bit of defense. It could easily have been a Stalbar Kameshki drop for Eastern Stars. They've shown that they will drop there.
Yeah.
Okay. If that playing path is technically away from Milk the Power, but it also wasn't so far away from Milk the Power that you could maybe, low-key expect Eastern Stars to go to their main drop. So I just wanted to highlight that slight bit of defense. But it's not going to be a successful defense overall for Uncanny, as, yeah, they've been put down to 2 players, and they are sent back to the Nether Realm away from Eastern Stars, and it's a good start. Off the back of a strong result from the Romanian side, they're not wasting any time.
You could argue, though, that if they could pick between Stalbor or the Milton Power split, very obviously Milton Power would be a better location. There's just more
Yeah,
loot.
I agree.
So if it was possible to do both, they should be at least prepared for the Eastern Stars to come into Milton Power.
Yes.
But, you know, that fight's done. It's over pretty much. We're on to the Sohn just kind of ran in through the door with no gun in his hand. And I'm pretty sure Beast was making noise in there, so I'm not sure what was happening there. But 7up trying to follow up with a very late support because Sohn is already down and out of the match. Big with 2 players here for now. Don't know where the other 2 are split around. I don't think we usually see Big play in this area either. This is
No.
not their usual spot.
No. Normally, when the playing path doesn't complement their normal drop spot, they will grab vehicles and make their way up. I like the fact that even though it's not working out as of right now, as I think they've lost a couple of players. Even though it's not working out right now, I do commend them for the ability to at least try to adapt and change their drop spot to loot up a little bit quicker, move into the circle quicker, etc., etc. This time around, it just hasn't worked out. I still think it was the right call.
Yeah, Big tried something new. Definitely not working out. And yeah, they're just trying to adjust to that plane path, but they're down to 1 player, Mazzaro. I don't think he has a first aid either, as he's not using it to heal. And he gets a very nice pre-cooked grenade onto one and instantly almost got the other one. That would have been a clean 1v2. If he had maybe just 20 more HP, he was at 1 HP when he did that play. Got the next player down to 1. Really, really good try by Mazzaro right there. But ultimately, Big do fall out early once again. They did not have a good day whatsoever today.
No, not at all. Hidokiri from Uncanny looking to be targeted once again by Eastern Stars. Like I said, Romanian side not letting up, not wasting any time, not taking any chances. There you go. Aethys finds the knock. Confirmed the kill. Papa left on his own. To give just, again, another element of defense to Big on the kind of Rossock drop. Rexspec normally go there. Rexspec not in the lobby. They knew Rossock was free. And
okay.
Even though 7up do spread out when they know Rexspec aren't playing in the lobby, it's one of those things where, where again, I just give that extra element of defense to Big.
That is true. That is something I did not consider. Yeah, Respect is usually the team in there,
Yeah.
and with them not in the lobby, Big's adjustment was a very calculated one.
Yeah,
Just so
exactly.
happened that afterwards, 7-Up just played that better. They took the higher angles, and I think Big did slip up a little bit there.
Oh,
But the
for sure.
plan, yeah, the plan and everything from the outset was very calculated and very, very well done. So we're down to 15 teams. You can almost say 14 team, as 7-Up is down to just one member. The first circle, by the way, I don't even recall where it was because we've had a lot of early game action happening for this last match of Erangel.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where the phase one is as well, not gonna lie. It's kind of something I struggled throughout today, to be fair. I'm a little bit distracted and
Oh, there
haven't
we go.
really taken into account the circles all the time. But now we have it upon us, and it is to the east.
And very eastern circle, we might see another engagement right now already between Bravis and Real Tiger 9, I believe, at the center of the map. Both teams getting very close to one another on top of that hillside that we've seen come into play in the late game multiple times. Teams are really familiar with this location, and it's pretty easy to play in the sense of you kind of know what will happen based on the different formations and what happens when you get pushed and how you should adjust the defense.
Yeah, I don't really like this area of the map this early in the game of phase one. I think it's a false security behind it, because I think when you still have so many teams left in the game, you can't get all the information you want, and you could easily within 15 seconds on the next circle shift have 2 to 3 teams rotate around you, and you get picked off one by one. I appreciate what Bravos are trying to go for. I personally have never really been a fan of that area of the map this early in the game.
I think the hope is that the circle doesn't center on them circle after circle after circle, right? Because that will naturally lead to teams surrounding them. But this is, after all, the very first circle. And the second circle will shift a little bit to the south. You could almost argue it shifts towards Military Island.
Yes.
There's actually a decent amount of Military Island in play. It's like a 60-40 as far as the landmass may go. Maybe a little bit more, 65-35. But
69-31.
We'll see. We'll see. I like what you did right there. But 4 Romanian men rotating on in with that circle shift. Looking like a very strong team, not just today, but also yesterday, right? Yesterday, Eastern Stars were playing, and we're like, oh, this 4 Romanian men team, they can perform when Eastern Stars isn't in here. And now that Eastern Stars are in here, well, they're performing even harder.
It's like they have more to prove. Mega Power, Real Tiger 9, they're going for the same spot, the coastline by the bridge on the mainland. Mega Power has Logis knocked. They do join this game as a full squad. And there grows. Does get the trade. How heavy will they push it? Malik yet to get revived. That's a lovely nade by Mega Power. Nearly connects, not quite, onto the rest of Real Tiger 9. But a sweet molly in return continues to suppress, separate, and slow down Real Tiger 9.
Oh, really good grenade by Septus. They will get that confirmation, so Logis won't be able to get revived. Real Tiger 9, I love the aggression, but the initial push by that one player by himself, definitely not the play. A little bit too haphazard, but he will manage to get the support in time to get revived. Septus goes down to counter knock. That grenade coming through. And oh, hold on a second. We're actually going over to a fight from Greek Army and LMB on the other side of the bridge. And it looks like Greek Army will take that one out. Mega Power, another opening for the side of Real Tiger 9. This Real Tiger 9 team looking good right now as they run into a random player, by the way. Not sure which team that player is from.
It's
but
Papa from Uncanny. Believe it or not, the last player of Uncanny. Yeah.
Okay.
He's still alive, man. He's still alive.
That makes a little bit of sense how he ended up there by himself. Just a third-party spectator, more or less. But Mega Power and Fuel Tiger 9, this fight has been going on for quite some bit, and that's the vehicle strategy that you want to use. The distraction vehicle, where you don't drive straight into them, you circumvent them, get them to peek, turn their backs. Really well done out of Real Tiger 9.
Yeah, just turn around and nail them right in the face with that bait and switch play. Well executed by Real Tiger 9. And I think a big component of that was in the early parts of the game, it was actually just 3 of the Real Tiger 9 players on that coastline. They still had 1 player across the road. When they were comfortable, at the right time, I might add, the 4th player joined them across, and that allowed them to really fully execute that push, and a deserving set of eliminations for them. Still 1 player left from the side of Mega Power, with the distribution of the water and the land in play between the military island and phase 2. It's going to be able to wait on the coastline, much like that last player of Uncanny, but the circle does shift north. Fortunately, for our eyes, it has moved away from Military Island.
That's a Milta finish potential right there. How many teams will take that Milta area? In my opinion, the best position in the circle, definitely the toll booth area, right where that M is. Yeah, that is by far a strong, crucial position in this map now. And by the way, real quick, Real Tiger 9, you mentioned how they kept 1 player on the other side, right? Absolutely beautifully done. It's essentially, you know, what the Chinese meta is that they pin players and they pin the other enemy team in to a point where once they're sure, okay, this team is not going to try and counter anything because they know they can't. Once we pin them in and choke them in, then we smash them in the face and push directly into them. So that was really beautifully done by Real Tiger 9.
Outside of the toll booth by the M of Milta that you highlighted, the position that Eastern Stars went to on the very, very western edge, I would argue even outside of the Milta compounds, it's the other toll road or toll booth, should I say, also the second best place to go to in this kind of circle.
I would agree. It controls a lot of open ground terrain, and those open ground terrains lead to small hillsides, which is another jumping point to the rest of the map. So I 100% agree with you there. Looking at the side of Golden, this is the southwest side. Like, it might seem like we've condensed the circle down to a really small circle, but there's still quite a bit left in play. And it might not end up in the toll booth area at all. We're only circle 3 going into circle 4. There may be another hard shift that comes out that completely changes the way that the game might be played out.
And that's where you see Game Lord just waiting a little bit, right? Biding their time on the northern edge of the circle. I would argue the 100 on the Lumberyard Hill, a little bit similar. I would like to see them maybe push 1 player a little bit further down the west on the other side of the hill to get a little bit more information. But otherwise, it's similar to Game Lord. Like you mentioned, they're waiting until the next circle pops up.
It's a hurry up and wait game now, as we see almost all the teams just in their relative positions in the circle. You want to see where that 4th circle hard shift goes to, which, you know, a lot of teams do watch out for. 4th circle is the most crucial point in the game, especially on, you know, air and go, in terms of knowing what you need to do to close out the game, or at least go for a top 5 finish. Red Moon on the far edge, down to 3. Not much info to work with, so they're relying on either a YOLO rotation or a nice circle bless. So we'll see how this one turns out as the next circle is about to shift up on your screen. And all right, toll booth it is for both Eastern Stars and Chasmot Gaming. And 100 Daddy IGO, you said it a second earlier. Well, he's already there getting that advanced scout info. So it's like they can almost hear you, Imperium.
Yeah, look, Daddy is a massively experienced player, and it's one of the reasons why I do genuinely regard him as one of the best IGLs in Europe. He may not have had the flashiest success as some other IGLs, but again, those years of experience and the maturity he holds as one of the oldest players in the scene speaks volumes on what he's able to do with this the 100 roster and move into the circle in the way he has. But still, I look at Eastern Stars as having the strongest spot inside this circle.
Definitely. Greek army, though. That's not a strong position whatsoever. Wide out in the open. They did what they could, but the rotation did not work out for them. Game Lord just taking their time. You know, like, Game Lord's a team that they don't have to get a more stronger position, like a power position or anything like that. Teams like Game Lord's caliber can just edge in circle by circle and then take the isolated fights when they need to going into the late game. So that does seem like that's going to be their strategy for this one around, as the circles didn't really shift in their favor.
Didn't exactly. Real Tiger 9, I love the spread that they have. Golden Esports as a full squad are going to be pushing in the underside of this little ridge. They do suffer one knock, unfortunately, but I do like where they're going. This is a good place to hold on to, but it is at risk of nades. The thing is, they shouldn't be looking to push on the Real Tiger 9, in my opinion, because they still need to cover their backs more effectively. It's still only phase 4. Easily, 1 to 2 teams could be coming in from behind.
Look at this split by Real Tiger 9, by the way. What is your opinion on the split? It's like a good split. It controls a lot if they can hold it.
The way they're being, the way they're being proactive, I'd say it's a perfect split.
Holding right now, trying to just survive at this area you mentioned. You can see they don't have much to work with. It's more like a keep your head tucked down low rotation, but that's just the edge that they can work into, right? Not much more options for them. The only other option was be to full send it into Real Tiger 9's compound, but they have no idea how many players are playing there, so they're just going to be forced to keep their heads tucked there. Red Moon down to 2. Not even sure if that spot is survivable once the smoke runs out. Game Lord in the kill feed, just taking their time working in from the edge of the zone.
Right, Rex from Mega Power was all the way down by the outside of the Eastern Bridge. How the hell did he get from there to the very northern edge of the circle without being killed? That's crazy from Rex. He's got to have balls of steel to pull it off, and it's kind of worked out. He's in a bit of a safer spot. Of course, one of the Game Lore players are there, but Narvello, he might not be aware because, for the most part, Game Lord have been covering this northern side.
Next circle comes out, and it does go a little bit down to the southwest. Game Lord already with a very good position. That might look like they're in the open, but it's a small section of the map with a little bit of defolated hills and some trees for cover. Really good spot, though, for them to use. And Narvello holding a 1-3 split. I think he's just there to pressure players out and space teams away and also get advanced info. You see right here, Narvello.
Exactly.
Just looking to third party and pass information along to his teammates.
Exactly. I look at this as being absolutely perfect by Narvello. You brought the point up a couple of times where it's okay to lose a player sometimes if there's a reason behind it, and I look at this as being one of the reasons why it's okay to lose a player. If Narvello goes down now, of course, the longer he stays alive, the more effective his position is, but either way, if he goes down now, it's still a worthwhile sacrificial killing.
He essentially keeps the northern side of the circle super easy for his team to work with by holding such a nasty position on the map. Yeah, it's not in the zone. Yeah, he's by himself. He could get taken down. But look at this. This is what we were just talking about. He does go down. He sprays for a little second too long. But easily, if Narvello had a little better spray control, he would stay alive. And, well, he might even get revived. It gets kind of risky here, going for that revive. But Narvello spaced out the east side of the map. He put out pressure to 100, and then he put out pressure to the west side of the map. So that revive is actually, in a way, kind of set up for himself to be made. So, Game Lord. All right, maybe we sound like we're talking them up too much, but this is Game Lord after all. We said it time and time again. Everything is well calculated with a team that's quite literally the best team overall in this entire tournament.
Yeah, like, these are the moments where I can confidently say we know what we're talking about, right? Because Game Lord are making it so easy for us to know what we're talking about. We see the methodicalness, we see what they're trying to do, what they're not trying to do, what they are doing, and now their focus on the northern side of the circle is to eliminate Glore. Job done. Elimination number 5 goes right into the palm of their hands. 6 teams left, 21 players alive. Eastern Stars still holding things out. 4 Romanian men, the other Romanian representatives. The tricky spot to be in. Yes, they have the comfort of the buildings inside the circle, but the next phase, if it moves away, they are going to get wrecked by Game Lord.
Oh, Game Lord looking so good right now. This could be a chicken dinner for them, especially with that new circle. Oh my! Look at how clean
I know
the shots are. Okay, I feel like he could have hit that one too, but that first spray, man. Okay, so we talk about strategy, talk about synergy, positioning, everything. But don't forget, every individual player of Game Lord also has insane aim and mechanics to back it all up.
However, I do want to kind of point out all of the players for Game Lord. We're looking at 4 Romanian men. I low-key look at that as a bad idea because they don't have security inside the circle. Leave Victor there to punish and slow down 4 Romanian men. The rest of the team need to cover the other angle, the other side, because the fight between Chazmak and the 100 has not finished.
And if anything, they might be able to stick their heads out, at least one player, to see if they can third party from distance, right? So, I mean, there's always ways to improve upon the game.
True.
But at the end of the day, they're doing what's necessary to control the important side of the circle.
Oh my god.
Which is the 4 Romanian men's side. So they're just prioritizing this. They could be doing more, but there's nothing wrong. Oh my god, I just saw all 4 players with grenade icons over the top of Game Lord. They are raining down hellfire onto the 4 Romanian men's side. Look at that, and from the other end as well. This is a red zone from Game Lords right now. Call them the Grenade Lords, because that's what they're doing. 4 Romanian men pummeled down to just Dexter, cowering behind a single tree.
He's still alive, though. And if anybody can pull it off, it's Dexter. A lovely couple of nades, but he's really going to hit the right target, unfortunately. Looks for Victor, turns around, but Victor sprays it through. Gets a squad right. Red Moon could third party. Versace, opportunity personified, is going to get Victor, but look at that. A third party on the other side by Eastern Stars. You get the return fire on the Versace. That leaves Red Moon down to 1 player. And inadvertently, Eastern Stars gift Game Lord a full squad opportunity.
Okay, this last one was for Chazmak. They've already had a beautiful day, a spectacular day. If Pocus could do something as a solo right now, that'd just be the cherry on top. Eastern Stars not getting the better end of this fight between the 100 and them. A little bit of positional mistakes there, maybe. We weren't watching this fight too closely, though, so we don't know how this fight ensued. But Eastern Stars down to 2, the 100 with 3 up.
You called the 100 as kind of one of your teams that picking in seeing a strong result, kind of seeing a chicken dinner, and they're making it happen. They are down to 3. It's a little bit tricky because there's kind of 2 teams evolved around this area. The last player, Chazmak and Eastern Stars. There is a potential third party from Game Lord because Game Lord cover one side. They can now focus on the full force of the 100, but indeed, the Eastern Stars play it through. They're going to go down. 4 teams left up.
Ocus, still alive, by the way. Playing very quiet. Kill feed definitely got a little hectic there. He knows it might be a 1v2. He's going to instead just not take advantage of that and maybe play spoiler. Maybe he could just... Oh, okay, never mind. He goes down to a Molotov, and that is Pocus out.
Oh,
we're down to 3 teams. The 100 versus Game Lord, and the Game Lord have the zone advantage, and not just zone advantage, they have really nice positional advantage with this ridge line. It's not going to be looking good for the 100 unless Ed does something here and helps them out. But most likely Ed's just gonna...
Oh my god. The MG3 from Victor just doesn't stop spraying through, and Akashi on the other side. That's 2 players knocked down for the 100. Icy Boss. Let's see if he can freeze Game Lord in their tracks. Doesn't look like it anytime soon because the Game Lord players with the Molly here and Molly there, they're looking like the firefighters. And in they come, down they go. The 100 are eliminated. Ed waited for his time to strike. He was able to get 1 knock, but it's just a little bit too early, possibly. He pays the price. Game Lord with the chicken dinner to end the day.
always love watching Game Lord secure a chicken dinner. You could see the methodicalness every step of the way. The structure is there. They utilize positioning and strategy so well to close out each and every game. When they get a chicken, you can follow it to a T, all the different techniques they employ, because they have so much in their arsenal, right? It's not like, you know, some other teams that get a chicken and it's like, you know, they just pop off, they do crazy stuff. No, Game Lord is a team. What they do in of itself is crazy, you know, like the level that they play at. But the strategies and the setups, it's so there. And from an experienced, you know, caster, previous ex-competitive player, you see these things quite easily, and it's a joy to see. So I didn't pick Game Lord as a team I want to see get a chicken dinner, but seeing them get a chicken dinner each and every time is always done so beautifully, and the executions, of course, on point.
Yeah, just absolutely perfect from Game Lord. There's not really much more that can be said. It was a joy to watch, and the French community just continued to step things up. Simple as that. Let's go to our final break of the evening. The highlights for the last game. We'll come back. We'll show you the scores. We'll show you everything else that you need to know. Don't go away. We'll see you in a few minutes. We are back. Another day of fantastic PUBG Mobile Europe community action has gone down upon us, and I honestly, I love this job so much. I love commentating because I can just walk away with a massive smile on my face on how good these teams are performing.
Oh yeah, I mean, take a look at the match rankings. I gotta agree with you. Like, the more I see these teams play and develop, it's like, it's like we can appreciate their success. Like, their success is almost our success because we're able to tell the story about it, right? We're able to follow their journey, and we're just as invested. And as far as all the viewers go that are watching, I hope you guys can feel that passion, not just from us, but from the players themselves who spend in countless of hours practicing and developing the skills just for, you know, trying to be the best. So, really good games today. I think the games the past 3 days have been quite spectacular.
Definitely, and I know this is kind of off topic, and we'll get a little bit more into the match rankings because I do have some statistics to throw out there. But someone put a tweet out today or yesterday saying, like, interesting debate. It's super hard to find an even perspective. What's more exhausting, casting or playing essentially competitively? They reference the CS:GO thing of 3 best of 3s, and my perspective hasn't always will be that playing any competitive esport at a high level is way more stressful, way more pressurizing, because we see that it's not just the 2.5 hours that they're playing that they're putting in. It's a day in, day out scrims, the night in, night out scrims, the day in, day out VOD review, the night in, night out team meetings. It's everything else that goes behind it. And don't get me wrong, I put in a hell of a lot of work for casting, but I will never, ever, ever stop appreciating and understanding that playing this game is so much more stressful, so much more difficult. And I think you could certainly attest to that, Zute.
I would first start off, it's 2 different grinds. There's a lot of work that casters do off screen as well, as far as making connections so you get your next gig, right? So you get your next job. It's like a whole different aspect, but for sure, competing, it's very stressing and sometimes even depressing, you know, when you don't do well, when your teammates don't like you, when you let down your team, when there's a chance of you being cut from the team. It's a whole different ball field. But let's take a look at the match rankings real quick right now. So, Game Lord coming up huge, and Red Moon.
Yes.
The sole representatives, they had a good game too. They had a 0-pointer on Sandhawk, but they're bouncing back with a 17 points. So, really good job by Red Moon. They kind of know that, you know, as a sole representative for today, they have to put something out there so that when they are playing as a 2 community team the next day, it's not a huge point gap that they have to catch up on. So good job by the Red Moon and the 100 as well. Good seeing them show up.
For sure. In reference to Red Moon, they can't control the fact that there's 2 German representatives, but to give you a bit of a perspective, they got 41 points in total for the day, Red Moon, as a solo Italian representative. The German community in total with 2 teams, 33 points in today's games. So that's really positive for Red Moon in the fight to kind of catch up with Germany and possibly break in towards the top 3. But the battle for first and second, that cushion has once again increased for Game Lord, but it was a massive day for Romania. 118 points across the 4 games for the 2 Romanian teams. Unfortunately, overshadowed by France once again. 123 points.
Wow, 123. Sheesh.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's insane.
I want to see these teams play in the next stage of, like, the tournaments, right? The next competitive tournament coming out. And it's an absolute blast seeing these teams. And we're not even done yet. I'm talking like we're done, but there's still more days to come right, Imperium? And with the way everything is trending, like each day just gets better and better, not just for the top teams, but the teams, you know, trying to get themselves up there, like the 100, Greek Army.
Yes.
I love that dynamic, how it's not just the top teams we're following, it's also the teams that are struggling that are improving. So, I mean, I just can't wait for the next couple of days and see where things eventually end.
Yeah, big time, big time. I'm looking forward to seeing the overall standings coming into tomorrow's games. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow to view it. Another day of action is going to be upon us. Join us at the same time, same place. Have a lovely evening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and see you all tomorrow.